The shotgun blast echoed through the olive groves like a thunderclap from God himself, splintering the night air and sending a flock of startled crows exploding into the starry Andalusian sky. I hit the dirt hard, my cheek pressed into the cool, unforgiving earth of my family's finca, tasting blood and betrayal as the metallic tang of gunpowder burned my nostrils. You're dead to us, Elena. Better the wolves take you than your sin poisons this land. My father's voice roared from the porch, his silhouette a hulking shadow against the lantern light, while my mother's sobs twisted the knife deeper than any bullet ever could. That was the moment my world shattered, or so I thought. I'd always known love in our tight-knit village of Las Cuevas, tucked in the rugged hills of western Spain near the Portuguese border, where the air smelled of wild thyme and ancient grudges. But nothing prepared me for the venom that love could unleash when it dared to bloom in the wrong garden. I was 28, a daughter of the soil, raised on stories of saints and sinners under the relentless Mediterranean sun. My family had scraped by for generations on this patch of land, olives, goats, and the occasional tourist straying off the Camino de Santiago trail for a taste of authentic Spanish life. We were Catholic to the bone, the kind where rosaries dangled from rearview mirrors and confession was as routine as olive pressing. Hypocrisy? Sure, but it was our hypocrisy woven into the fabric of survival. Then came Nicole. She washed into Las Cuevas like a summer storm, all freckles and fire. An American backpacker with a laugh that could coax blooms from drought-cracked ground. 30 years old, from some rainy corner of Oregon she'd fled after a messy divorce from a man who never deserved her. Nicole was chasing reinvention on the pilgrim paths. She'd rented a room in the village's only posada, a crumbling stone inn run by old widow Ramos, and spent her days sketching the jagged sierras or haggling for figs at the market. I first saw her at the weekly feria, her auburn hair catching the sunlight like polished copper as she twirled in a borrowed flamenco dress, oblivious to the whispers rippling through the crowd. Gringa loca, my brother Tomas muttered, swigging from a jug of tinto while eyeing her with that mix of envy and disdain all the men here reserved for outsiders. I laughed it off, but something in her eyes, green as the cork oaks after rain, hooked me. By week's end she'd wandered onto our finca, claiming she was lost but really hunting stories for her travel blog. Your olives look like they've got secrets, she said, her Spanish halting but earnest, plucking a bruised fruit from the tree and biting into it with a wince that made me snort. I showed her the groves, the hidden spring where the water ran sweet and cold, the crumbling hermitage my abuela swore was haunted by a lovelorn shepherdess. Nicole listened like I was reciting poetry, not just the ramblings of a farm girl who'd never left the province. Back home everything's so scheduled, she confessed one afternoon as we picnicked under a carob tree, her sketchpad forgotten in the grass. Here it's like the land breathes. And you, Elena, you move like you belong to it. Her fingers brushed mine when she handed me a slice of manchego, and the world tilted. Just a graze, but it lingered warm as sunlight on skin. We fell into each other slowly, like rain seeping into parched earth. Stolen glances at the mercado, where I'd slip her an extra bunch of almonds. Late-night walks along the goat paths, her arm linking mine under the guise of steadying on the rocks. Tell me about your dreams, she'd whisper, her breath fogging the chill autumn air. I'd spin tales of escaping to Madrid, opening a cafe with coffee that didn't taste like regret, but really it was her I dreamed of, her voice wrapping around me like a serape, her touch a promise of something wilder than these hills. By winter the charade crumbled. We'd sneak into the old barn, the one with the hayloft that smelled of dust and forgotten harvests, and there in the slivers of moonlight, we'd kiss until the stars blurred. Nicole's lips were soft, insistent, tasting of salt and stolen figs. I love you, she murmured once, her head on my chest, fingers tracing the scars on my knuckles from thorn-pruned branches. Not like a friend, Elena. Like everything. I believed her because in her eyes I saw myself. Not the dutiful daughter, but a woman worthy of fire. But Las Cuevas doesn't forgive deviations. My father Javier was a man forged in Franco's shadow, his faith a fortress against the world's softening edges. My mother, Rosa, softer but no less chained, baked communion wafers for the church and prayed for my soul nightly. Tomas, my brother, carried their grudges like a badge, his wife Pilar already whispering about that American witch corrupting the village youth. It started with rumors, 2 women seen too close at the well, laughter echoing too late from the groves. Then the notes. Repent or rot. Pinned to our door like curses. I ignored them, clinging to Nicole like a lifeline. We planned escape, her savings, my knowledge of the back trails to Portugal. We'll start over in Lisbon, she'd say, mapping routes on napkins stained with vino. Or hell, Portland. Rainy, but we'd make it ours. Hope tasted sweet, sharper than any olive. The night it broke, the feria had spilled into bonfires and bawdy songs. Nicole danced with the children, her skirts swirling, while I watched from the shadows, heart swelling. But Tomas cornered me by the bonfire, reeking of anise. She's turning you, Hermana. Into what? Americona. His slap stung more from the word than the force. I shoved him away, storming home to find my parents waiting, faces carved from granite. She's leaving tomorrow, I announced, chin high, the lie of control steadying me. And I'm going with her. Papa's eyes darkened. No daughter of mine flees with sin on her sleeve. Mama wept, clutching her crucifix. Elena, me lose, think of the family. The village. But it was Tomas who fetched the gun from the mantel, the old Remington that hadn't fired since the wild boar hunts of his youth. Prove it, he snarled, thrusting it into Papa's hands. Or we'll do it for you. The blast was warning, not kill. Shredding the barn door inches from my head, they dragged me to the edge of the finca, where the olive rows gave way to the barrancos, the wild ravines that swallowed wanderers whole. Go, Papa growled, shoving me toward the abyss. And don't come back. God will judge you harsher than we ever could. Mama's final wail. Perdoname Hija. Chased me into the dark as I stumbled down the scree, thorns tearing at my jeans, tears blurring the path. Nicole waited at the posada, her bag packed by the door. I burst in, wild-eyed, babbling fragments. She pulled me close, her embrace a harbor. We're leaving now. Tonight. But as we slipped through the alleys, torches flared. Tomas and his cronies, faces twisted in righteous fury. Traitors! They bellowed, pitchforks glinting. Nicole grabbed my hand, sprinting for the hills, but they were faster, herding us like goats toward the wilderness. At the ravine's lip, Papa appeared, gun leveled. Not at me but her. The sin leaves with the foreigner. The shot grazed her arm. A shallow furrow blooming red, but it was enough. She cried out, staggering, and in the chaos they wrenched her from me. No. I lunged, but Tomas's fist met my temple, stars exploding. When I came to, bound and gagged in a donkey cart, Nicole was gone, whisked back to the posada, her rescue a farce of mercy. She'll board the first bus at dawn, Mama whispered, her eyes hollow. Forget her, Elena. For your soul. They dumped me at the barranco's mouth, a forsaken stretch of maquis scrub and jagged sierras where smugglers once hid contraband from the border guards. No water, no food. Just a canteen half full and my abuela's old knife in my boot. Survive if you can, Tomas spat, the cart rumbling away. But don't you dare return. Alone in the howling wind, I curled against a boulder, the cold seeping into my bones like accusation. Nicole, her face, her voice, flashed in my mind a beacon. Betrayal burned hotter than the shame. My own blood turning on love like it was poison. But as dawn bled pink over the ridges, a spark ignited. Ide surviva. Not for them but for her. And one day I'd return, not broken but unbreakable. The truth they buried would rise with me. The first days blurred into a fever dream of thirst and thorns. The barrancos of western Andalusia are no gentle exile. They're a labyrinth of shale cliffs and thorny retama bushes, where the sun blisters by day and the cold claws by night. I rationed the canteen to sips, licking dew from rocks at dawn, my lips cracking like the parched riverbeds below. Hunger gnawed, but it was the silence that nearly undid me. The absence of Nicole's chatter, the village bells, even my family's curses. What kind of God, I wondered, staring at the indifferent stars, abandoned his children to this? On the third morning, scavenging led me to a dried-up arroyo, its banks littered with goat bones picked clean by eagles. I fashioned a snare from bootlaces and wire snagged on barbed scrub, trapping a scrawny rabbit by dusk. Its eyes, wide and pleading, mirrored my own as I slit its throat with abuela's knife. Quick, merciful tears salting the blood. Roasted over a fire of twisted juniper, it tasted of ash and atonement. For strength, I whispered to the flames, imagining Nicole's hand in mine. She'd once joked about survival shows, her Oregon winters teaching her to forage mushrooms and mend with duct tape. You'd outlast Bear Grylls, she'd said. Now her words were my scripture. Nights brought ghosts. I'd wake sweating, reliving the shotgun's roar, Tomas's sneer, Mama's broken pleas. Betrayal festered like an untreated wound. Why hadn't Papa just pulled the trigger? Mercy or cowardice? And Nicole, had they hurt her further? The posada was miles away, but rumors traveled on vultures' wings. I pressed on, paralleling the smugglers' trails etched into the hills, faint paths used for bootleg wine or Moorish gold in centuries past. My goal. The border town of Rosal de la Frontera. A day's hike if the map in my head held true. There perhaps a phone, a bus, a way to find her. By week 1 my body adapted, calluses forming on palms and soul alike. I learned the land's rhythms. The ibex silhouetted at twilight, browsing on spiny gorse. The sudden rains that turned dust to mire, filling ephemeral pools I guarded like treasure. One storm caught me exposed on a ridge, lightning forking the sky like divine wrath. Huddled in a shallow cave, I carved Nicole's name into the wall with my knife, and each stroke a vow. I'll come back for you, I mouthed, the thunder drowning my sobs. Illusions crept in. On the 10th day mirages danced. A figure in the heat haze, auburn hair flashing. I'd stumble forward, heart hammering, only to grasp at twisted manzanita. Once it was so vivid, her voice calling my name, that I collapsed, dry heaving. Was she safe? Bound for America, or trapped in some village jail, branded a seductress? The thought fueled me, rage sharpening my steps. My family thought wilderness would cleanse me? It forged me instead, stripping illusions of duty until only truth remained. Love wasn't sin. Their fear was. I reached Rosal by the full moon. A sliver of a town clinging to the Guadiana River's edge, where Portugal's lights winked across the water like forbidden promises. The plaza was alive with smugglers' whispers and gypsy guitars, the air thick with churros and contraband tobacco. I slipped into a cantina, my clothes ragged, face gaunt under the grime. The bartender, a one-eyed veteran named Paco, eyed me like yesterday's catch. You look like the devil's been at you, chica. Phone. I croaked, sliding a scavenged euro across the scarred bar. He nodded to a payphone in the corner, its cord frayed as my nerves. Fingers trembling, I dialed the posada's number from memory. Widow Ramos answered, voice brittle as autumn leaves. Elena? Madre de Dios. Where? Nicole. Is she gone? A pause heavy as judgment. The gringa? They put her on the bus to Seville 3 days after. After you. Police came, said it was a lover's quarrel gone wrong. She fought them, that one, scratched old Hernando like a cat. But she left, sobbing your name. Left this. The line crackled as she described a package. My locket, the one with our photos tucked inside, engraved with siempre. Tears came then, hot and unbidden, as Paco pressed a shot of Origo into my hand. For the road, he grunted. I downed it, fire blooming in my chest. Nicole was free, hurt but free. But freedom tasted hollow without her. How do I reach her? I pressed. Vamos seguir. She wrote nothing. Said you'd find each other if it was fate. Fate. The word soured on my tongue. No, this was no divine whim. It was human frailty I'd claw back from. Paco, sensing a story worth a free round, sketched a map on a napkin. Trails to Huelva, then the coastal trains to Seville, Madrid, even the airports if I begged rides. Borders are porous here. He winked, tapping his glass. Like hearts. I nodded, pocketing the map, but as I stepped into the night, resolve hardened. Return? Not yet. First Nicole. I'd cross Spain if needed, trace her to the Atlantic's edge. The journey east was a gauntlet of small mercies and cruelties. A shepherd shared goat cheese and tales of lost pilgrims. Highway cops waved me onto a trucker's rig, mistaking me for a farmhand. In Ayamonte I washed in the river, the Guadiana's current carrying away layers of dirt and despair. Sleep came in snatches, haunted by dreams of the finca. Papa's gnarled hands pruning olives, Mama's lullabies now twisted into dirges. Betrayal's roots ran deep. Tomas, who'd once defended me from schoolyard bullies, now my jailer. Pilar, his wife, whose jealous glares I dismissed as village pettiness. They'd all known, whispered, plotted. For what? Purity? Or power, the illusion of control in a world slipping from their grasp? By Huelva's outskirts I'd pieced a plan. Nicole's blog, at Wanderlustren, chronicled her path. If I could reach a library or internet cafe, I'd post a digital flair. But fate, cruel jester, intervened. In a roadside albergue for pilgrims, I overheard American voices, hikers fresh from the trail, trading stories of a red-headed woman who'd passed through weeks prior, arm bandaged, eyes haunted. She was asking about someone named Elena, one said, a burly guy from Boston. Kept saying, she'll come back. She has to. My breath caught. She was searching too. I cornered them at breakfast, begging details over weak coffee. Seville, they confirmed. Staying at a hostel near the Alcazar. Writing about hidden Spains but mostly staring at the walls. Hope surged, a tide pulling me onward. I hitched to Seville that day. The city's labyrinth of alleys and azulejo tiles, a dizzying contrast to the Barranco's austerity. The hostel was a bohemian hive. Backpackers sprawled like colorful debris. The clerk, a pierced Andalusian with henna tattoos, recognized Nicole's description. Room 7, but she's out, always at the archives, digging into old love letters or something poetic. Love letters. My heart clenched. I waited in the courtyard, palms slick, rehearsing apologies for my silence, my weakness. She appeared at dusk, silhouette against the setting sun, her arm healed but scarred. A pale crescent moon on her skin. Nicole, I whispered, rising from the bench. She froze, then ran, crashing into me, sobs racking her frame. Elena. God, Elena. We clung there, the world fading to the scent of her hair, jasmine and salt. No words at first, just the press of bodies, the unspoken litany of survival. That night, in her cramped room, we unraveled. She told of the bus ride, police questions laced with insinuations, the American embassy's cold efficiency. I wanted to storm back, guns blazing, she admitted, tracing my ribs, gaunt from starvation. But they said you'd run willingly. Lies, all of it. My turn. The ravine, the rabbit's eyes, the carving in the cave. Her tears soaked my shirt. They took everything, she murmured. But not us. We made love then. Not with the frenzy of youth, but the tenderness of the reclaimed. Hands mapping scars, mouth sealing promises. Marry me, she breathed at dawn, her green eyes fierce. In Portugal, where it's legal. Then we fight. Fight. The word ignited something primal. Return to Las Cuevas, not as victim but avenger? The idea terrified, thrilled. But as we boarded the train west, her head on my shoulder, I knew. The truth wasn't just ours. It was the village's secret shame. The hypocrisies buried under saint statues in Sunday masses. The road back to Las Cuevas was a slow unraveling of nerves. Each kilometer twisting like the Guadiana's bends. Nicole and I crossed into Portugal first, a quiet ceremony in a Tavira chapel. Vows exchanged under olive branches, her in a simple white sundress, me in borrowed linen, rings forged from scavenged silver. Till the Sierras crumble, she promised, her kiss sealing it against the world's winds. We honeymooned in whispers, 2 nights in a fisherman's cottage by the sea, waves crashing like applause. But joy was fleeting. The pull of unfinished reckonings dragged us east. Re-entering Spain felt like stepping into a confessional booth rigged with mirrors. We rented a battered Fiat in Badajoz, Nicole at the wheel, her knuckles white on the gearshift. What if they shoot first this time? She asked, hazel eyes scanning the rearview for phantoms. Then we haunt them, I replied, half joking, my hand on her thigh, a grounding warmth. Truth was a blade I'd honed in exile. Not just our love, but the village's underbelly. In Seville's archives, while waiting for Nicole's return, I dug. Not for romance but rot. Old parish records, yellowed and foxed, revealed patterns. The disappeared daughters, the accidental falls into barrancos, the whispers of affairs hushed by shotguns and shame. Las Cuevas wasn't unique. It was a microcosm of rural Spain's lingering shadows, where Franco's legacy lingered like smog, women silenced, love policed, families fractured under piety's guise. And closer to home? A letter from Widow Ramos, slipped to me via a pilgrim contact. Tomas's rages, Papa's silent decline into drink, Mama's novenas for my soul. But the gut punch. Pilar, my sister-in-law, had confessed in a drunken haze to Ramos. Jealousy, not zeal, fueling the betrayal. She'd seen us in the barn, not once but many times, and rather than confront, she'd poisoned the well, whispering to Tomas of my seduction, to secure her place in the family pecking order. Power, petty and poisonous. We expose it all. Nicole said, as the Sierras rose like accusatory fingers. Not with guns, with words. Your story, the records. Let the world see. The village appeared at midday, a cluster of whitewashed adobes baking under a merciless sun. We parked at the finca's gate, dust devils swirling like omens. My heart thundered, but Nicole's squeeze steadied me. Together. The yard was empty, laundry flapping like flags of surrender. Then Mama emerged from the house, her once vibrant braid now streaked silver, apron dusted with flour. Elena. Her voice cracked, a hand fluttering to her mouth. Behind her, Papa shuffled out, bent as an old olive trunk, eyes squinting against the glare. I stepped forward, Nicole at my side, hand in hand, unashamed. I'm home, Mama. With my wife. The word hung, detonating silence. Mama gasped, crossing herself. Papa's face purpled, but no roar came. Only a wheeze like wind through dry leaves. Wife? Abominación. Love, Papa. I cut in, voice steel. Not abomination. And you know it deep down. Tomas burst from the barn then, pitchfork in hand, Pilar trailing with wide-eyed caution. You dare return? After you tried to kill me? I advanced, the records folder tucked under my arm like a shield. Or after Pilar lied to cover her envy? Pilar paled, clutching her shawl. I didn't. You did. Mama's voice, small but sharp, surprised us all. She'd pieced it from the voids. The nights Tomas stormed in, reeking of rage. My son. Our shame. Chaos erupted. Tomas lunged, but Nicole stepped between, her American calm a wall. Enough. We're not here for blood. For truth. She nodded to me. I opened the folder, pages fluttering like indictments. Dates, names, dozens of women like me erased from ledgers, their loves deemed debts to God. This isn't just us, Tomas. It's generations. Your rage. It's fear of change, of losing control. He faltered, pitchfork dipping, eyes darting to Pilar, who wept openly now. Papa sank onto the porch step, head in hands. What have we done, Rosa? Mama approached, tentative, her fingers brushing my cheek, withered but warm. Mi hija. Forgive. The question pierced deeper than any blast. Forgiveness? For the abandonment, the lies? Nicole's grip tightened, her presence a reminder. I wasn't alone. Not yet, I said softly. But maybe. If you see us, really see. The village learned by Vespers. Word spread like wildfire through the bodegas and back alleys. The prodigal returned with her Merida and a tale that scorched. By nightfall, a crowd gathered at the plaza. Neighbors who'd shared bread and baptisms now murmuring, some with stones in fists, others with curiosity cracking their shells. Father Mateo, the priest, arrived with his censer swinging like a pendulum of judgment. Elena, this union. It defies God. I interrupted, ascending the old fountain's rim, Nicole beside me. The crowd hushed, torches casting flickering shadows. Or man. I've walked the wilderness you condemned me to, Padre. Starved, hallucinated. Carved my love's name into stone to remember why I breathed. And I found this. Love isn't defiance. It's survival. I read then, from the records, from my journal scrawled on scavenged paper. Pilar's betrayal, the shotgun's echo, the rabbit's plea. Gasps rippled. A woman in the back, Senora Vega, whose sister vanished years ago, sobbed aloud. Tomas stood frozen at the edge, Pilar clinging to him, their facade crumbling. Nicole spoke next, her voice steady, accent broadening the vowels like an embrace. In America we call this progress, not perfection but trying. I left a life of hiding once. I won't watch Elena hide again. This village raised her strong. Be strong enough to let her love. The climax crusted like a sirocco. A stone sailed from the shadows, grazing my shoulder. Pain flared, but I didn't flinch. Instead, Mama surged forward, arms wide. No más. Basta. She pulled me down, shielding me with her body. A reversal that stunned the mob. Papa rose, voice rumbling like distant thunder. My daughter speaks truth. I failed her. Tomas broke then, dropping to his knees. Hermana. I was wrong. Pilar. He choked, turning to his wife who nodded through tears. We were scared. Of losing you. The land. Everything. The crowd shifted, murmurs turning to uneasy nods. Father Mateo lowered his censer, eyes glistening. Perhaps. Confession is for all of us. As the torches dimmed, the village exhaled. Not redemption, not yet, but a fracture in the stone, light seeping through. Dawn broke over Las Cuevas like a hesitant truce, the sun gilding the olive leaves in fragile gold. Nicole and I woke in my old room, the air thick with dust and memory. My childhood bed now a sanctuary, her body curled against mine, breath sinking with the distant cockcrow. No grand gestures followed the plaza's tumult. Healing isn't scripted, especially in a place where grudges root deeper than cork oaks. But seeds were sown. Mama moved first, practical as ever. Breakfast appeared on the table. Pan con tomate, eggs from the hen she tended through my absence, coffee black as confession. Eat hijis, she said, the plural tentative but deliberate, setting plates with trembling hands. Papa sat silent, carving bread like it was penance, his eyes avoiding mine but not unkind. Tomas and Pilar arrived late, faces drawn, bearing a jug of their finest oil. For your new life, he mumbled, unable to meet my gaze. Nicole, ever the bridge, poured wine at lunch, toasting to truths unearthed. Conversation stuttered. Weather, the harvest's promise, but beneath currents shifted. Pilar apologized outright, voice cracking over figs. I envied your fire, Elena. Mine's always been banked. We talked then, women unraveling threads. Her fears of infertility, the village's pressure to produce heirs. Not absolution but understanding. A humanistic mercy, fragile as new shoots. The village tested us. Whispers persisted in the mercado, stares at the well. Old Hernando, the cop who'd rescued Nicole, crossed the street, but Widow Ramos took us in, her posada now a neutral ground for quiet coffees. Father Mateo visited, not with sermons but questions. What does love teach us of God? His sermons softened, weaving parables of prodigal sons and daughters into Sunday masses. Tourists trickled in, drawn by rumors of a miracle return. Their dollars funding repairs to the Hermitage. Nicole blogged it all, her words. From wilderness to witness. Going viral among expat forums. Turning Las Cuevas from backwater to beacon. But conflict lingered, a slow burn. One evening as Nicole and I walked the groves, hands linked unhidden, Tomas ambushed us, face flushed from vino. You think this changes everything? The neighbors talk, say you're cursed, bringing American rot. His words stung, echoing the shotgun's ghost. Nicole bristled. Rot? Or roots? Your sister's stronger for it. I stepped between, heart aching. Brother fears the curse. Let it go. He deflated, slumping against a tree. I almost killed you, Elena. For what? Pilar's lies? My pride. Tears carved tracks in the dust on his cheeks. We embraced then, awkward, olive-scented. Forgiveness not a thunderclap but a murmur. Help me change, he whispered. For the children. Pilar's pregnancy, announced weeks later, sealed it. A boy, they hoped, but in the ultrasound's glow, shared over Mama's gazpacho, we saw possibility, not prescription. Teach him love, I said, hand on her belly. She nodded, eyes bright. Like you taught me. Papa's redemption came quieter in gestures. A new knife sheath for Abuela's blade, etched with intertwined vines. Walks where he'd grunt stories of his youth, loves lost to war and want. I feared you'd suffer as I did, he admitted one twilight as we mended fences. But pain's in the hiding, eh? His laugh was rusty but real. Nicole and I built from there. A small cafe at the finca's edge, Cuevas Corazon, blending my olive oils with her Oregon roasted beans. Mornings we'd grind counterside, flirting over froth. Evenings host suppers where villagers mingled with pilgrims, stories swapping like spices. The wilderness had marked us, scars on skin and soul, but it birthed resilience. Love, we'd learned, wasn't conquest, it was cultivation, tender and tenacious. Yet drama shadowed even this. Winter brought floods, the barrancos swelling to devour paths, stranding a family of hikers. We mobilized, me leading rescues on horseback, Nicole coordinating supplies via her blog's network. In the chaos, old wounds reopened. A villager blamed the curse, pointing at us. But Mama defended, fierce as a lioness. My daughters saved them. Who's cursed now? The climax replayed, not in violence but vulnerability. A town meeting in the plaza, torches replaced by lanterns. I spoke again, voice steady. We were abandoned for love, but love returned us whole. Applause rippled, tentative then thunderous. Tomas stood, arm around Pilar. To Elena and Nicole, our light. Spring unfurled in blooms, our cafe thriving, a child, Tomas's nephew. Toddling at our feet, giggling at Nicole's puppet shows. Papa passed that summer, peaceful in his sleep, rosary in hand, but his final words to me. Estoy orgulloso, hija. Proud. Mama took to calling Nicole nuestra, weaving her into the family tapestry. We didn't stay forever. By autumn, with a second location planned in Seville, Nicole turned to me under the carob tree, our tree. Ready for the world? I smiled, pulling her close. With you? Always. Las Cuevas taught us. Betrayal breaks, but humanity mends. In fits starts, forgiveness is hard won. We left not as exiles but anchors, our love a bridge over the ravine. And in the hills where I'd carved her name, wildflowers now bloomed, testimony that even stone yields to truth. In the end, it wasn't triumph or tragedy but grace. The quiet miracle of returning, not to conquer but to belong.